Hi, my name is ARO. I'm an ARO ACE Muslim activist.
Hello, I'm Oliver and I'm a trans guy who makes videos about LGBTQIA+ people where they get to talk about anything that they want that somehow relates to them being queer. I am currently on a short visit in London to march in London Trans Pride, and I couldn't believe that Ariam agreed to meet up and make a video with me.
Hi, my name is ARO. I'm an ARO ACE Kuwaiti medical student, activist. My pronouns are she, her.
Ariam is ARO ACE, aromantic and asexual, and realizing that was a bit difficult due to the limited amount of information and knowledge there is about these identities.
Even within the queer community, a lot of people do ask me about asexuality or aromanticism. There's little to no awareness and representation, unfortunately. So I grew up not realizing I was queer, and a lot of people ask me, how do I reconcile being queer and being Muslim? And it was very easy because I thought my queerness was just me being religious because I'm ARO ACE basically. So I mean, growing up in school, I was always confused by how everyone was kind of, so eager to get into relationships and everyone had all these crushes and I just didn't relate. So then I thought maybe having a crush on someone means wanting to be their friend, and then obviously that I was wrong. I never really kind of thought about sexuality. It wasn't something I ever, reflected on until I reached uni and I started meeting queer people who are Muslim and Arab like me. So then I started to think about my own sexuality and I'm like, okay, so it's not I'm religious thing. There's something happening that people who are from the same background, same faith as me are getting into relationships, engaging in sexual relations, and I just don't feel the need to do that. So then I told one of my best friends, I think I'm bisexual. And he told me, why do you think that? And I said, the way I feel about guys and girls is the same. And he asked me, and how do you feel about guys and girls? And I was like, nothing, I want to be friends with them. And then he was like, that's not bisexuality. So then we started kind of researching together, and then I came across asexuality and aromanticism, and then everything kind of made sense. And I was like, oh my God, it's not just because we believe in, sexual relations after marriage. So it wasn't just me being super religious, and it was just people were feeling things that I wasn't feeling. So I wasn't feeling the temptations that people warned me about within the Muslim community, that my parents tried to shield me from, that you can't have male friends and stuff to protect me from premarital relations. I just didn't experience that.
Ariam's faith has always been an important part of her life.
My parents, I wouldn't say they were very religious. I was the only person in my house to eat halal meat, for example. I was the only one who prayed all my prayers 5 times a day. So I wouldn't say they were very religious, but there were some things that they were quite strict about. Socializing with boys and men, it was just you're not allowed to have male friends, basically. And again, like I said, it's to shield me from temptation, which, didn't make a difference with me. I just didn't understand. So then when I started doing my own research and finding my own path with, religion, spirituality, and my connection to God, I always felt a strong spiritual connection to God. And then the more I started reading about religion on my own without someone interfering or weaponizing faith to discriminate and abuse people. So when I started finding my own path, it just started to click and make sense. And contrary to popular belief, we do have a very long queer history in Islam. For example, there are the mukhannathun, which in Islamic history are very heavily insinuates they were genderqueer people or gender diverse people. So they were assigned male at birth, but they presented as very feminine, and the Prophet, peace be upon him, allowed them to enter women's spaces. There are all these little bits and pieces of queer history within Islam which I started coming across, and it's obviously very beautiful to see, but also really sad to see. I feel like a lot of Muslims have kind of overlooked or forgotten our history and obviously misused religion to discriminate against and even harm queer people.
And Ariam has a strategy of how to deal with people of different beliefs than her.
I try not to argue with people about religious interpretations because I don't want to force my beliefs on other people. I try to respect everyone's interpretation, but something I'm very firm about is regardless of what interpretation you follow or what you believe, regardless of if you're a Muslim or not, everyone has a right to live safely and free from violence, regardless of any individual's personal beliefs.
It is very important for Ariam to be visibly Muslim in queer spaces.
In a lot of queer spaces I go to, I'm usually the only visibly Muslim person in the room. Until recently I found queer Muslim community, which is really nice. But I do feel like it is important to be visibly Muslim. By my hijab, obviously, I mean, people don't have to ask me questions. They kind of just know I'm Muslim, which is something I like because being Muslim is so important to who I am. It is quite nice when I meet other young Muslims who are, so excited to see me and say hi at the Pride parades. And the only way they know I'm Muslim is because of my hijab, obviously. And I found it really sad. Last year during the Trans Pride Parade, I met this young Muslim woman. She wore a mask to hide her face. I mean, I'm guessing she's not openly queer and she doesn't want people to recognize her. And she told me that she usually wears a hijab, but for the Trans Pride Parade, she chose to take it off to protect herself from hate crimes, obviously, which, was really sad. But I'm glad I could kind of bring that representation, I guess. I mean, obviously not that I believe everyone should wear hijab. Very pro-personal choice.
I found Ariam some time back on Instagram, where she shares important messages and personal stories with her followers.
My social media activism started during the pandemic, during lockdown. I was very bored and I didn't have social media, and my friends were kind of annoyed. They were like, oh my god, you should get social media so I can send you memes. I was like, okay, fine, I'll just get it so you can send me memes. But then I realized social media has changed so much from the way it was a few years ago when I was younger. There was a lot of more political awareness, body positivity, and body neutrality, things that I really liked, because previously I deleted my social media accounts because I just didn't like how heavily filtered and kind of, I guess, fake everything was. I feel like it wasn't an accurate representation of people's lives, and I didn't like being a part of that. So then I realized, people are talking about things I'm passionate about on Instagram, like feminism, sexual harassment. So that's how I kind of started. I did talk about queerness, but not to the extent that I do now, because I didn't realize how important it was for people to see someone who was queer, Muslim, Arab, to talk about these things openly. I just, filmed a few videos on sexual harassment. There was a movement in Kuwait actually called Len Esket, which means I will not be silenced. And it was a woman-led movement about attempting to criminalize sexual harassment and implement stricter laws to prosecute sexual predators. So I started, posting videos and meeting other really cool people, Kuwaitis, online, and that's kind of how it started. And then in end of summer 2021, I unfortunately had to apply for asylum. So that's when my page started becoming much more personal. The reason I applied for asylum was because of domestic violence. In Kuwait, unfortunately, we have male guardianship laws, so I can't do anything without my father's permission or my husband's permission. I'm unmarried and my parents are abusive, so that wasn't an option for me. So I started to share my experiences with domestic violence, and for a lot of people, that's very uncommon. I would say in our community, coming from both a Muslim and an Arab background, we very much believe in respecting family, traditional family values, which I believe in as well, but I also don't believe caring about traditional family values means sacrificing my safety. And that was something a lot of people hadn't heard or realized before from someone who was a part of their community. So now I have a much bigger community on social media. I talk about my experiences with domestic violence openly. I talk about queerness openly.
And she also talks a lot about the situation in Kuwait.
I think my main goal, which I pray for this, I really hope it happens, is I would love to see Kuwait have some more laws to protect us from violence. Like, for example, currently, if you're someone who's assigned female at birth and you try to live by yourself, the majority of landlords will refuse you and ask for a marriage certificate or your husband's permission to rent property. So if you are a victim of domestic violence, it's very difficult to live independently from your abusers. So I would like to see improvement in that, and I do hope we can bring about that change.
Some last words from Mariam.
I hope everyone watching this knows that queer Muslims are definitely valid, queer Arabs are valid, and don't let anyone tell you who you are or who you can be.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time!